I used to think communication was just about talking, choosing the right words, sounding confident, saying things clearly. But I've come to understand something far more difficult. That real communication begins long before you ever open your mouth. It begins in your heart. It begins in how you see the other person. It begins in how well you've learned to see yourself. Because if you don't understand you, your own fears, your own triggers, your own unresolved pride, then every word you speak is just noise, covered in ego, drenched in defense, coated with some need to be right. That's why I failed. Not because I didn't speak, but because I wasn't listening. Not because I wasn't heard, but because I wasn't present. Not because I couldn't express, but because I was too busy trying to win. And in trying to win, I lost everything that actually mattered. Most people think failure in communication is just a technical problem. I didn't word it right. I should have spoken softer, louder, funnier, more assertively. But that's like blaming a burning house on the color of the curtains. The real problem is deeper. It's you, the person behind the voice. Because if your words are right, but your soul is off, if your tone is controlled, but your motives are selfish, you can say everything perfectly and still be completely wrong. See, communication is not just about transferring information. It's about transferring intention. It's about energy, truth, respect. That's why people don't just react to your words. They react to the spirit behind them. When I failed to communicate well, it was because I still saw conversations as transactions, not transformations. I was trying to win arguments instead of trying to win people. I was trying to defend my ego instead of trying to understand another soul. And that failure cost me time, trust, and relationships I'll never get back. There is a moment in every conversation, you can feel it if you're honest, where your pride wants to speak louder than your wisdom. That's the moment. That's the fork in the road where most of us fall apart. We're too addicted to being understood and not disciplined enough to understand. Too impatient to listen. Too insecure to pause. Too reactive to ask questions. Too entitled to admit, maybe I'm the problem. And this is the hard truth I had to swallow. You will never be a great communicator until you stop needing to be a great communicator. You must become something far rarer, a truthful human being, one who can sit in silence without needing to dominate it, one who can hear criticism without crumbling, one who can make someone else feel safe in your presence. Not because you said all the right things, but because you meant them. I used to think my words were strong because they were sharp, but now I know. Words are strongest when they are clean. Not clean as in polite, clean as in free from hidden motives, free from manipulation, free from the desperate need to impress, convince, or control. That's when your words cut deep, not to wound, but to heal. And healing doesn't happen when you speak to be heard. It happens when you speak to connect, when your words are rooted in your values, not your emotions. When you pause long enough to feel the weight of what you're saying and the person you're saying it to. I didn't fail because I lacked vocabulary. I failed because I lacked humility. And until you confront that, your need to be the smartest, the strongest, the most respected voice in the room, communication will always be something you perform, not something you live. It's easy to talk, hard to listen, even harder to absorb what someone says without twisting it into an attack. That's why people don't grow, because they don't know how to receive truth without filtering it through pain. And so we stay stuck, not because life is unclear, but because we keep distorting the message. Think about it. How many moments have you ruined because you misinterpreted something said in love? How many bridges have you burned because you assumed tone instead of seeking clarity? How many times have you tried to protect your pride and ended up poisoning the relationship? Communication isn't just about speaking clearly. It's about living clearly, with a heart that can be open even when it's been hurt, with a mind that can be disciplined even when it's being tested. Most of us communicate from the wound, not from the wisdom. We speak from fear, from old battles, from unhealed moments. We project our past onto people who didn't cause it, and then wonder why nothing ever feels safe. That's not communication. That's confusion. And confusion is the cost of unexamined emotion. If you want to master the art of communication, you must first master the art of self-awareness. You must confront the story you tell yourself when someone disagrees with you. You must dismantle the need to be right, Because most of the time, being right is the loneliest victory. You must slow down, not just your voice, but your reactions. Because the strongest people don't raise their voice, they raise their presence. And presence can't be faked. People can feel whether you're really with them or just waiting for your turn to speak. So stop treating conversations like battlegrounds. Start treating them like sacred ground, a place where truth and patience meet, a place where two flawed humans can walk through hard things without turning it into war. I failed to communicate well because I thought communication was about me, what I felt, what I needed, what I deserved. But the moment I turned the focus outward, the moment I started listening with the intent to understand instead of answer, everything changed. Walls came down, bridges were built, and trust became something I didn't have to demand because I finally earned it. Not with perfect words, but with honest presence. There is no growth without difficult conversations. There is no peace without patience. And there is no real connection without humility. So the next time you're about to speak, ask yourself, am I trying to be powerful or am I trying to be clear? Am I trying to win or am I trying to connect? Am I reacting or am I responding with awareness? Because the words you choose are either bricks or bombs. They either build or destroy. And the world doesn't need more clever voices. It needs more truthful ones. Not louder, clearer, kinder, wiser. You want to communicate well? Start with your heart. Clean it up, make it strong, make it honest. Then let your words flow from there. Not from your wounds, not from your ego, not from your fear. Because when your life becomes the message, you won't have to speak louder. People will lean in just to hear your silence.